How do you incorporate ads and promos into your podcast? You have to set up your show so it's ready to have these ad spots inserted. Now, we did talk about this a little bit when we talked about your overall show format. So if you've got those notes, go ahead and get them out. But if you recall, I talked about creating spaces for breaks. Those could be promos, things that you want to specifically promote in your show. Those could be ad spots where you promote your own products and services, or you promote an outside brand's products or services. But we have these breaks built into our show. Now, some of this may be review for you, but just to refresh your memory, we can only have one break per 15 minutes of content. So if you have a 30-minute podcast, you can have up to 2 commercial breaks or 2 promo breaks, 2 breaks that are built into your show. That doesn't mean that you have 15 minutes of content and then you have to, drop in a break right at that moment. No, you have some flexibility. This is just a general guideline so that you don't put too many breaks in your show. I don't want you putting 10 breaks in your show for, a 30-minute podcast. So that's the general rule of thumb we use. 1 break per 15 minutes of content. And you also want to make sure it makes sense where you put your breaks, right? If you have segments built into your show, usually coming out of a segment before you go into the next part of the show is a great place to take a break. Now, leading into these breaks, what are you going to say? What should it sound like? These are the questions that people typically have. And I want you to think about what typically happens in a radio or television show. How do you know that a commercial spot or a promo or something is going to be played? There's usually some sort of lead up to it. And in podcasting, there's 2 common ways that you do it. You can just use a little bit of music, or you can have some sort of verbal cue that says, "We'll be right back." And I wouldn't say, by the way, "We'll be right back after this commercial break" or "after this break." I would just say, "We'll be right back," or, on the other side, this quick break, we're going to talk about such and such. I really wouldn't put in there commercial break, because what if you're using dynamic ads and you don't have an advertiser that week? Then you said you're going to toss to a commercial break and there's no commercial. So try to avoid things like that, but you can certainly say, "We'll be right back." But you lead into the break with some sort of a verbal command. A lot of times shows will just have some music, or sometimes it's a combination of both. I know within my own podcast, you would start to hear some of the music at the very end, and then sometimes I said, "We'll be right back." Sometimes I didn't. Sometimes you just heard the music and there was a brief pause. So you can do that a couple different ways. Some general guidelines when creating ad spots for your show. First of all, I highly discourage that you create ads that are longer than 60 seconds. Right now, that's kind of the standard when you're working with outside advertisers. They're usually looking for 60-second spots. I'm always pushing against that. I'm always trying to make it more like 30 seconds. And that's not because I want to give the advertiser more time. It's because I know how short the attention span is of my listeners, right? And 60 seconds may not sound like a lot of time, but if you're thinking, you're just kind of listening to an ad and you can't wait to get to the end of it, 60 seconds, that can be a lot of time in a podcast. So I usually try to minimize it, but definitely don't go longer than 60 seconds. And the main reason is because your audience is going to tune it out anyway. Whenever you're creating these ad spots, always try to relate it back to your audience. Think about your audience avatar and what they're experiencing, what a typical day like is for them. How can this product help them? You always need to keep them in mind. Don't automatically go into the ad spot saying, "This product is the best thing ever and it's got this feature and this and this and this." You are going to sound like an infomercial, and nobody wants to listen to an infomercial. Maybe I can think of a couple infomercials I actually like, but don't do that. You're totally going to throw your audience off. Instead, ease into it. And it's great if you are your avatar, because you can share your own personal experience. For example, when I was doing my podcast focused on parents and families, I'm a parent. And so I could say, "Man, I was feeling totally run down. I had zero energy. My kids wanted everything from me today. And I found this product and it totally changed my energy level." See how I did that? I'm relating to my audience. I'm sharing a personal experience I have. I'm building that relationship. At the same time, I am starting to promote a product. When you build in these ad breaks into your show or these promo breaks, generally speaking, we're not gonna double up. So like we're not gonna have one break and have multiple ads in one break. I know you see that in television, you see that in radio, and it does work in that format. But podcast audiences still haven't completely welcomed the idea of having ads in the shows yet. And a lot of times the ads are a little bit longer, right? So we only have one ad or one promo per break. One of the things I like to do with new advertisers is to create the ad spot in advance and then send them a copy so they can hear it before it actually goes live. Now, most of the time people don't ask me for that, but I'm trying to build a relationship with this advertiser. I want them to continue working with my podcast because I think it's a good fit for my audience. So it's nice to build some of that in, right? Think about what you would want as an advertiser, go above and beyond, and I promise you, you're gonna have a great relationship with this company and they may keep coming back for more.